61-yard game-ending field goal. Haven't we heard that one before? With a score of 27-24? Yeah, we have before, and this is just a tough loss to absorb. Now, for the sake of this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about the Vikings game, all the positives, negatives, whatever. But to be completely honest with you guys, I've already moved on to the Colts game because the Giants control their own destiny, and a lot of things go into that. And we had a couple of scenarios play into our favor, but ultimately on Saturday, the Giants could not get the job done. Welcome back to the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast, everybody. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Also, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Appreciate all the new subscriptions. I don't know if we'll get to 900 before the end of the year, but I just wanted to throw out some podcast updates as well. So, obviously, last night was the final Boys in the Big Apple podcast for the year. We're going to take about a 2 to 3 week break. We'll be back probably right now on the 16th, or the week of the 16th. I believe that is a Monday, the third Monday, I believe, of January. So there's that. Same thing applies for the Dead Red podcast. Final one is on Thursday. That's going to cut off for a few weeks. Hopefully we'll get some more baseball rumors and stuff like that flowing by the time we get back. Twin Bill, obviously we'll see what's what with Pete. Well, that's probably still going to go on as well. And as far as the best of compilation in terms of our live streams, podcast episodes, whatever, best of part of the channel, the best moments, that's going to be released tomorrow. I'll probably put it into 2 parts because it is pretty extensive. But, hey, I appreciate you guys for coming out, supporting this year. We've grown a lot. So, once again, share out, do all the good stuff. Much appreciated. But, let's get into this game. And I'm not a guy that takes moral victories. I'm not. And I was severely pissed off coming out of this game. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Also, it just stung because, hey, listen, we've been hurt by 60-plus yard field goals before. And, once I saw Greg Joseph kick it, I'm like, yeah, he's fucking got it. So, it's happened to us before. That's just a giant thing, I guess. It's become a giant thing over the last few years. But this is the game the Giants could have had in the bag. And a lot of unforced errors, as somebody put it, put the Giants in a position to lose. There were penalties, there were drops, there were fumbles, there were interceptions. There's a lot of things that went wrong. And the Giants could have easily been up. The Vikings played down to the Giants level. And, whether you like it or not, the Vikings are fraudulent, they're not fraudulent. I mean, they got a record for a reason. And, people say they're fraudulent, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend Minnesota on every level, but, their record implicates who they are. Bill Parcells says you are who your record says you are. So take it as that. That's, my personal advice. We'll go through the offense, the defense, stock up, stock down, snap counts, and end the show off there. So let's go through the stats. Daniel Jones, 30 of 42, 334 yards, 1 touchdown, a pick, 3 sacks taken, a 57.9 QBR, and a passer rating of 92.8. Kirk Cousins, 34 for 48, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 sacks taken, 50.8 QBR, and 107.9 rating. As far as the Giants' rushing attack, Saquon Barkley, 14 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown, 6 yards per carry. Daniel Jones took off 4 times for 34 yards, most of them being scrambles, 8.5 yards per carry. Matt Breida, 2 rushes for 9 yards, and Brightwell had a negative 1-yard rush. As far as the Vikings, Dalvin Cook, 14 carries, 64 yards, 4.6 yards per carry. Alexander Madison, 4 carries, 17 yards, and Kirk Cousins had a run for 2 yards. Giants receiving game, Richie James led the way with 8 receptions for 90 yards. Isaiah Hodgins, his 3rd touchdown of the season, 8 receptions, 89 yards. Darius Slayton, 4 receptions, 79 yards. Saquon Barkley had 4 catches for 49 yards. I don't know if I said 4, but I meant 8 catches for 49 yards. Daniel Bellinger had 2 catches for 27 yards. Justin Jefferson had 12 receptions for 133 yards and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson, 13 receptions, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. KJ Osborne, 3 receptions, 17 yards. And then Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen were basically non-factors in the receiving game. In terms of fumbles, Jones had a fumble, and it was recovered by Evan Neal, and Bellinger had a fumble. It was recovered by Brian Asamoah, the linebacker, the rookie linebacker out of Oklahoma. So you take a look at the Giants' defense overall, pretty solid in terms of the stat line. 4 sacks, 11 quarterback hits. Jalen Smith, Landon Collins, Azeez Ojulari, and I believe Dexter Lawrence also got in as well. Actually, no, they're not counting him with a sack. So it's Azeez, it's Leonard Williams. They didn't go to Dexter Lawrence with that one, but it's Leonard Williams, Azeez, Jalen Smith, and Landon Collins with sacks. Jalen Smith also had a tackle for a loss and a quarterback hit. Dexter Lawrence had a tackle for a loss and a quarterback hit. Kayvon Tibbs had a quarterback hit. A tackle for a loss, a quarterback hit, and a pass deflection for Landon Collins. He played really well. Jihad Ward, 3 quarterback hits. I believe that's a career high or a season high for him. Leonard Williams had 2 quarterback hits and 2 tackles for loss alongside a sack. Quarterback hit for Jason Pinnock. Really love him on those DB blitzes. Azeez Ojulari had a quarterback hit and a tackle for loss, and that was pretty much that. 6 tackles for loss, 6 pass deflections. Take a look at the Minnesota side. Not too different. Not too many tackles for loss for them, but the same amount of quarterback hits and 1 less sack. DJ Wanham and Khyiris Tonga had half a sack. Daniil Hunter had 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Chandon Sullivan had a quarterback hit. Dalvin Tomlinson had a quarterback hit. He also had the tackle for a loss where he blew up Mark Lewinsky, I believe it was. And Wanham had a quarterback hit. Zadarius Smith had 3 quarterback hits. And Khyiris Tonga had a quarterback hit as well. So, that's a stat line for the Minnesota Vikings. Team stats. Let's go to team stats. 23 first downs for each team. They had 17 passing first downs. Giants had 15. 6 rushing first downs for the Giants. 4 for the Vikings. 2 first downs from penalties on each side. Third down efficiency. Giants were 3 for 11. Minnesota was 6 for 13. 1 for 1. Giants were on 4th down. That was a Saquon Barkley touchdown. And 0 for 1. The Vikings were on 4th down. Total plays. Giants ran 66. The Vikings ran 71. Total yards 445 for the Giants. 353 for the Vikings. 11 total drives for the Giants, 12 for the Vikings. Yards per play, Giants 6.7 yards per play, and 5 for the Vikings. Red zone, 1 for 2 the Giants, 3 for 4 the Vikings. Penalties, 7 for 63 for the Giants, and 214 yards the Vikings, and 2 turnovers for the Giants. 1 fumble and 1 interception. And then time possession was really tight, 29-13 to the Vikings, 30-47. Let's go to the offense. Before I shout out the player that's getting a lot of praise right now, I want to shout out somebody else. I want to shout out Mike Kafka because this game plan was absolutely awesome. It really was. The thing I liked with it, and I'm going to include Jones and Barkley in this conversation, let's get the elephant out of the room right now. Daniel Jones had his best game of the year. He did. Now, obviously, that came with an interception. He only threw 1 passing touchdown. But through thick and thin, in most of those moments in the game, he led the Giants down the field. This was better than the Detroit game because, obviously, we won. Well, I can't even say it. We morally won this game, if you will. I almost said we won this game. Like, no, the fuck we didn't. But that game was less close. This game was closer. And you could tell that Daniel Jones just made a difference. He led the charge for the Giants offense. Obviously had that crappy interception where it was the right decision. He just didn't place it very well. Saquon Barkley only ran when he needed to, scored the game-tying touchdown. And once again, that goes towards Mike Kafka. You didn't see a lot of first down runs. That's the second game in a row. You put the game in Daniel Jones' hands, which, had to happen. With this passing defense being as bad as it was, and I know people are going to say, well, you kind of expected Daniel Jones to do that with the passing defense looking like this. Nah, because, a few weeks ago, Daniel Jones got a lot of yardage and garbage time. I mean, yeah, he had over 300 against a very bad pass defense at the time of the Lions, but how much actually counted towards being in the game, right? Before that Hodgins fumble, how many yards did Daniel Jones had? I think he only had like 271. So, make your cases there. But Kafka, this was, in my opinion, the best game plan all year for Mike Kafka, where he just put it in Daniel Jones' hands. All the concepts were good. They threw deep a lot. They had some explosive plays. Shout outs to him. Shout outs to Jones. Shout outs to Barkley. And, they didn't bell cow Saquon Barkley, which made him more efficient, right? He obviously got that big chunk yardage touchdown, which I believe was 20-some-odd yards. They only, once again, ran when, they needed him to. And, may not look great on the stat sheet. Oh, he only got 86, 87 yards. That's not good. Well, you got to look in the game, right? You're not going to get a ton of yards, if your O-line isn't blocking. And, the O-line did a fair job against this Vikings pass rush. But also as well, you're not going to get a ton of yards if you're being used on second and short, third and short, fourth and shorts. And that's honestly what the Giants should be doing the rest of the season. Now, obviously, next week they do play a Colts team that has a very good defense. The week after that, there's some other things going on with the Eagles. They still have a very good defense. I don't know what the situation is with their starters. And then obviously, if we win against the Colts and play our cards correctly, we get into the playoffs, and then we're worrying about that. Though I do want to see the Vikings again. I want to not purposely tank for that 7th seed, because I think most likely the Vikings could get the 2nd or the 3rd seed. I don't know how it works with the, teams playing each other, but I think the 2nd plays the 7th seed. And if that's the case, the Vikings take the 2nd seed, really. So it's like Eagles, then it's the Eagles, then it's the Vikings, and then it's the Niners. So I think if we play the Niners, we're in the 6th seed. You can flip that around and make it more sense. If we get the 6th seed, I think we play the Niners. The 7th seed, we play the Vikings. So, and there's a very good chance that Detroit may pass us, obviously, because the record, they would have to win these next 2, and the tiebreaker, they have it over us because they won some games. Obviously, Seattle is also a threat. They play the Jets this week, and Mike White is expected to return. So, obviously, you're probably rooting for a Jets victory. But the Giants, once again, just clinching a playoff berth gets them in terms of you win against the Colts and you're in. The Giants haven't had a situation in the last few years where they were able to clinch their own destiny. You had to wait in 2020, and that was a fake anomaly, whatever you want to call it. Just a situation where, the Giants didn't do enough, and the whole NFC East was terrible. Now the NFC East is good, and it's kind of flipped between them and the South. So there's that. But quickly, just to finish up, Daniel Jones led the charge for the Giants offense. Obviously a lot of people may not be moved by this performance because the passing defense, the Vikings, or this, that, and the other thing as well. For some people, it could move the chains in terms of thinking that Daniel Jones may be the franchise quarterback, or he may be, good for another year or two in a Giants uniform. So there's that. But, you can't be coming off this game nitpicking Daniel Jones. You really can't. And listen, I've been critical of Daniel Jones in certain situations when it calls for it. I've been critical of this whole team, especially, a couple weeks ago when I was critiquing Kafka and the pass-run ratios and all these different things. But if you're picking different parts of the game just to say Daniel Jones is terrible, I mean, to be completely honest with you, you just have an agenda. That's my opinion. But obviously, we'll see what happens later in the week. I do have a Colts guy we're going to line up for an interview, a discussion for the preview that will be out on New Year's Eve. And, with that being said, we'll see how the Giants could coordinate a game plan. So, in terms of the help around Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, Daniel Bellinger with a key fumble, Richie James with key drops. I mean, Bellinger wasn't really that much involved in the passing game. He really hasn't been in the last few weeks, like we've seen before, to be completely fair. But he's gotta have that ball because, in my personal opinion, the Giants were going for 7 on that drive. You gotta hold on to the ball there, bud. But he's done solid as a blocker. I can't really critique him too much. Richie James, yes, he got 90 yards. That's not a Richie James type game. But in critical situations, I mean, the Giants were in a very good spot. 3rd and short. That's favorable for a Giants offense that's been stagnant on 3rd down. every year, and they're putting themselves in position. Well, not every year, but yeah, every year, this year, whatever. Um, but the thing with that is 3rd and 5 favorable, and then Richie James just drops it. I mean, you got to have that in your hands, you really do. And I get it. Listen, Richie James isn't very talented. This is the receiving core that Daniel Jones is working with, but in that situation, you have to go out and catch the ball. Hodgins and Slayton were the best receivers on the field. I mean, I may or may not change my mind on Slayton coming back. In terms of my thoughts, the organization will do something different than what I think. They may do the same as what I think, but Isaiah Hodgins, man, he is a guy to keep in the future. Now, is he a number 1, a number 2, or even a number 3? Probably not, but this kid, I mean, he just is playing his heart out because he knows that he got this opportunity because the Giants were very depleted, the wide receiver core. And they said, hey, listen, we know this guy from Buffalo. Let's try to bring him in. And he's played really well. He's probably been the best receiver of the second half. Coming off that Texans game, he was getting some real good catches. And, other than maybe a few, the interception and also as well the third down play, the third down slant to Hodgins and all these different things. I mean, speaking of Hodgins, he every time, or at least most of the time, he just has his hands on everything. So, he's done really well. He's done really well in the Giants uniform, and I really can't rip him too much. I'm going to take a sip, and we're going to talk about this O-line. So, with that being said, let's move it on to the O-line. And before we talk about Evan Neal, I want to talk about this. So, you guys know in the last few weeks, I've been talking about how the New York Giants should go out, and this was really since the Washington game, the first Washington game. Go out there, get Feliciano out of there, Bredesen, and then Gates. That's obviously not what they're going to do. And I'm going to stop beating the drum on that because it's like you're beating a drum and it's not working, and you're beating a dead horse. But obviously, they have this rotation thing where Gates is at left guard, Bredesen is at left guard, and Feliciano stays in at center. And, Feliciano is average at best, below average. And I know some people are like, why is Feliciano still starting? Just, evaluate the young guys. And I get it. Listen, I've been harping on that for most of the entire season. But it is what it is. We're not changing the coaching staff's minds unless Feliciano does really bad or he gets injured. This is the O-line. It's going to be for the rest of the year. What I will ask, though, is, and I don't really like saying this, but the film and the pressure sheet and all these different things, they say something that really makes me say this, is that Nick Gates should not be starting on the O-line unless he's the starting center. There isn't a rapport between him and Feliciano and Thomas. And when he came in at left guard against Washington, I mean, in the preview, I said, look, if they're going to start him at left guard, I'm going to be completely honest, he should be starting at center. Left guard, I've never really been wowed by him at left guard. I'm going to be honest. Like center, yeah, he's a good center. Left guard-wise, no, I'm sorry. And the rotating, it's just not going to do much of anything. And it's not all on Nick Gates. Listen, it's on the rapport. It's on the fact that, the coaching staff chooses to rotate left guards. But Ben Bredesen, that's a tongue twister, by the way. So if you want to, throw somebody a tongue twister, say Ben Bredesen really fast. 5 times fast, really. But Bredesen, man, I know obviously a lot of people see him as average or whatever this, whatever that. He's done really well since coming back. I mean, you just noticed that offensive line, it really looked decent, average in the first part of the season. Obviously, they had to work out some kinks and whatnot. But I think they've gelled, and this is an average unit. And listen, it's a better unit, I'm going to be completely honest, than some of the units we've seen over the last few years. It's a better unit than last year. This is probably, going to be honest with you guys, in my personal opinion, this is the best unit that Daniel Jones has ever seen. Going to be real. 2019, Nate Solder at left tackle, not great. John Halapio at center. And then obviously you had a solid right guard. You had a decent left guard and, a stopgap right tackle. And then obviously later in the season there was a more run blocking unit in 2020 But this is the best unit that Daniel Jones has dealt with. Now, obviously, bringing Jones back, letting him go into the free agent market, doing whatever, you're going to make upgrades. You're going to have to make upgrades. But this is what it is. This is an average unit. And at the end of the day, I would rather stick with Feliciano at center and Bredesen left guard than keep this rotating shit going. If you're going to make a change, just make a change. It's just unstable and unstable, that's really the better word, to keep making these changes, So, there's that. I'm going to take a sip. We'll talk about Evan Neal. Got my Giants cup. Evan Neal, man, I don't know what's the deal with him. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's a bust and do all these different things, make all these different comments for clicks, whatever. But I don't know what's going on in terms of why they're not having him take that third step. Why are they not, recognizing that on film? It's clearly struggling. And listen, he's obviously going to get some good rushers, some bad rushers. He'll have some good reps, some bad reps, whatever. But it's the same goddamn issue. Now, maybe he's hampering that shoulder less or more. Obviously, different folks have to watch the film for that and just to see if he's hampering that shoulder. Because a lot of people think he has that left arm injury. Maybe it's his left shoulder as well that he's hampering as well. But it's just the same issue. He's unbalanced, which obviously, that's going to be an issue over time. That's not necessarily something you can fix unless he does wrestling or he loses some weight. But one thing you can fix is just that third step. Take that third step, get back a little bit more. Don't totally open up. And Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter, some of those guys on that right side of the line just took advantage of that. And we want to see improvement from Evan Neal. And, we saw improvement from Andrew Thomas in the second half of the 2020 season. That's something we would like to see out of Evan Neal. And maybe this is more of an off-season thing where they work on it, whatever. But you have to state facts as facts. You can state that he's a rookie, but you can state that he was the worst offensive lineman on the field. That's just facts. And then just a minor note, Chris Myrick and Lawrence Cager did not play offensive snaps despite being active. And I think Myrick, obviously that goes towards they didn't run the football a lot. But Lawrence Cager, is there really a point of him being on the roster anymore? Myrick is your really third tight end. And then Van Nett, he's on the field more than Myrick is. And, Bellinger's there. So it's really Bellinger, Van Nett, and Myrick. That's at least a decent core till next year where you could get, more guys in free agency in the draft. But I don't know that really Cager should be on the roster anymore. If you're not using him in the passing game and, he's deep down in the depth chart, I don't know. So let's talk about the defense. The Giants got 4 sacks. And even though he didn't get a sack, Dexter Lawrence had a really good game. Making a couple of tackles for loss, just penetrating, doing that good stuff. So, shout-outs to him, man. I know a lot of people don't like PFF. I don't like PFF, but if you want to be flip-floppy with yourself and your friends, Dexter Lawrence ranks as the number 1 interior defensive lineman in the NFL over Quinnen Williams. Now, do I believe that? No, I think Quinnen Williams is more of a game wrecker. But, Dexter Lawrence is the best defensive lineman on the Giants. Now, Leo also had a good game. I thought the interior overall had a good game. Leonard Williams had a sack. I think that's maybe his second or third of the season. Kayvon was a little quiet, but also 2 things. You're facing Christian Darrisaw, and they missed a couple of holding penalties, which Adrian Hill's crew is almost never good. I don't think the refs really moved the needle that much, but at the same time, you got to say what facts are facts. And we have the injury bug again. Azeez Ojulari leaves the game early with a sprained ankle, did not return in the second half. Just rest him to the playoffs. Just rest him till the playoffs. He had 1 sack in the game, and he can be a game changer from the other side of the field. And I honestly think that Kayvon didn't, show up too much. Obviously because of Darrisaw, but, it's different when you have O'Shane Ximines or Timon Fox or Quincy Roche on the right side or the opposite side of Kayvon, where Kayvon's really the best pure edge rusher you have when Azeez is off the field. But when Azeez is on the field, it's a different story. So He's got a sprained ankle. Obviously, that's not, too bad of an injury, but leave him till the playoffs. Clinch this week, manipulate, do whatever. You probably, and maybe I'll be wrong with this, maybe I'll be right with this, looks like you're getting Adoree Jackson back so you can throw more blitzes. Now, I don't know the rest of the receiving corps for the Colts. That's going to be studied more in the preview, but Michael Pittman, I mean, you cover him up with Adoree Jackson and you play man coverage, that shouldn't be bad. Plus the fact that Jonathan Taylor is out for the rest of the year. I don't know. It looks like the Giants have a lot of advantages going into that game. But nonetheless, Azeez leaves early with a sprained ankle. He actually got a sack on Darisaw, so there's that. Landon Collins, I mean, my wish, and maybe this is me being a fan more than, someone who studies the game, Landon Collins and Tony Jefferson should be the inside linebackers. Now, obviously, in real time, in real football, you're not going to do that because, well, they're good on certain snaps. They're not going to have, 100% of the snaps at linebacker. Obviously, you have to rotate Jalen Smith and Micah McFadden and all these other linebackers you have. Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin, solely just special teams. But those two make an impact, especially Landon Collins. Landon Collins got a sack on that game-winning drive for the Vikings, which was very big. And obviously the third down, the screen, and all that stuff. I'm going to talk about it once we're done talking about the defense and the players and the personnel as a whole. But Landon Collins, man, play him a little bit more than Jalen Smith. I know, obviously, he's not a pure Mike. He's obviously a converted linebacker. He's really been a linebacker-type player most of his career. But, Jalen Smith obviously gets credit for the sack, but, a lot of guys made that happen. So, Landon Collins, shouts to you, man. I'm glad I kept my Landon Collins color rush jersey. That's what I will say. And then Tony Jefferson, shout-outs to him as well. Giants overachieved with coverage in the first half, blown up by Hockenson and Jefferson in the second half. Now, also as well, Hockenson did have the touchdown in the first half. That was blown coverage. I want to say by McFadden, but, once we watch the film and all that stuff, we'll know a little bit more. But, the Giants' coverage overachieved a little bit, and then they started making adjustments. I forget who their offensive coordinator is. It's Wes Phillips, the son of Wade Phillips. But the dropped interceptions were another, I would say, prime example of unforced errors. McLeod had all the room along the sideline when he was covering, I think it was Adam Thielen, right? He played good coverage. Kirk Cousins overthrew the ball, and McLeod just dropped it. He just dropped it. And people said, he wouldn't have been in bounds. No, it's about the process, okay? He catches it. Maybe he gets 2 feet in, lands it. Giants, obviously, could go down the field with that. Now, also, another change, the biggest change, is Cordell Flott's dropped interception. Couldn't haul it in. I think Flott's been playing well over the last few weeks. You really haven't been calling his name. But that's something you got to haul in. Cordell Flott, man. I mean, the Giants are probably 32nd in interceptions. They really don't force them too much. But you got to come down with it cleanly. Because when that call was overturned, the Vikings were like, okay, we got another chance at this. Guess what? They went down the field and scored a touchdown. So there's that. But Holmes, McLeod, and Moreau, they were not good. Moreau, obviously, probably one of the worst. Well, really the worst. And you're matching up against Justin Jefferson, so you're not going to look good. And Darnay Holmes, I mean, he was burnt in the slot a lot. But, Rodarius Williams continues to sit on the bench. And I think that's not going to change for the rest of the season, unfortunately. I want to talk about something real quick before we move to stock up, stock down in the snap count. A lot of people are saying this game rests on Wink Martindale. I don't really think so. Now, obviously, a lot of people play the results. A ton of people play the results. Because if you blitz on the screenplay and the Giants blow it up, okay, it's great, right? But that's not really what happened. They looked like they were going to blitz. They dropped out, and then they didn't have enough guys, I guess, on that side of the field, and Justin Jefferson got the amount of yardage for Greg Joseph to kick the 61-yard field goal. Now, a first down doesn't do anything, if you tackle him right at the sticks. Now, personally, me, looking back on it, you could have played quarters coverage on that play. You could have also dropped into zone on the Darnay play. But also, zone defense doesn't fix everything because, if you could double Jefferson in a zone, maybe it leaves Hawkinson or KJ Osborne or Adam Thielen open. So, this what if game obviously can be played in multiple ways. But, this is Wink. I don't know why anybody's surprised with it. I'm not trying to be a homer. Yeah, you could have played quarters coverage or played to one side of the field, whatever, played the sidelines. But, this is Wink. I don't know what people are expecting. A lot of people saw this in the first half. We saw it coming into this year. Wink lives and dies with the blitz. He loves the pressure on the quarterback. He loves the pressure packages that he puts up. The players love it too. Wasn't properly executed. And then as far as, the Jefferson on third down, yeah, you could have went out there and, not left Darnay Holmes in one-on-one coverage, and it's Justin Jefferson, so you're going to get beat every time. But Darnay Holmes isn't good in the slot. It's just a matter of personnel. Me personally, more than it's more of personnel and the fact they have Justin Jefferson over, the game plan. Because third down, in 11, you could have blitzed and you could have gotten home, but it didn't. And to be completely honest, guys, it's not like they were sending blitzes the whole game. It's not. It's not like they were sending the blitzes the entire game because they dropped out in zone. Man, you got a couple of different looks. It's not like they were trying to blitz the shit out of Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson gets 255 yards. No, that's not what happened. So, if anything, Wink and his guys overachieved a little bit. They did. And then the second half, Wes Phillips and the offense made adjustments. And guess what? The Giants were at fault because they didn't execute. So there's that. But stock up, stock down, Azeez Ojulari, Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Saquon Barkley, Darius Slayton, Ben Bredeson, Landon Collins, Tony Jefferson, Isaiah Hodgins, and Cordell Flott. Though you could say stock down because he dropped the interception. Stock down, Evan Neal, Richie James, Fabian Moreau, Nick McLeod, and Darnay Holmes as well. I do like Jason Pinnock on those pressure packages, but let's be completely honest, on that Justin Jefferson touchdown where he beats Fabian Moreau in the inbreaker, Xavier McKinney cuts that off and intercepts that, or at least breaks it up. Because I believe that was a third down play. Now, good. They let him into the end zone. They let him score, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When I was watching that, I'm like, fuck, this game is over. And I thought they were up by like 10 or 9. I'm like, wait a minute. It's a one-score game. We could still win this. And guess what? We almost won. We didn't at the end of the day. So also snap counts as well. Let's take a look at the offense first. Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, Daniel Jones, Mark Lewinsky, and John Feliciano played 100% of the snaps. Darius Slayton, 99%, along with Daniel Bellinger. 97% Isaiah Hodgins. 91% for Saquon Barkley. Richie James, 83%. Nick Gates, 51%. 49% for Ben Bredeson. Matt Breida, 16%. Nick Van Nett, 7%. Marcus Johnson, 4%. And you really don't recognize when Marcus Johnson's on the field. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I know when Kenny Galladay's on the field. I know when Nick Van Nett's on the field. I know when Brightwell's on the field. I don't know when Marcus Johnson's on the field. It's like you don't see him. Kenny Galladay played 2 snaps, 3%. One of them was the post on the post-wheel route to Richie James. And then Gary Brightwell, 1%. 1 snap. That was the 1-yard loss in the backfield. Dalvin Tomlinson making that play. Defensively, Fabian Moreau, Jason Pinnock, and Julian Love played 100% of the snaps. 97% for Tibbs, 75% for Dexter Lawrence, 68% for Jalen Smith, 67% for Darnay Holmes, Jihad Ward, 62% along with Leonard Williams, 60% for Nick McLeod, 57% for Cordell Flott, 53% for Micah McFadden, 46% for Landon Collins, 39% for O'Shane Ximines, 32% for Tony Jefferson, 31% for Azeez Ojulari, Ryder Anderson, 28%. Justin Ellis, 15%, 6% for Henry Mondo, and Dane Belton and Tamon Fox, 1%. It just boggles my mind, really, why Dane Belton isn't playing. And, maybe it's because we're pushing for a playoff run and we can't really have players making mistakes. But at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a developmental year, an evaluation year of different players. And Belton, I think, in my opinion, not as a deep safety, but as a box safety, can make plays in the running game. But we'll see. Like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Turn on post notifications so you know when the live stream pops video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool.